Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. For those of you who don't know, I'm Pudgy.
And I'm Spartan.
And today we're doing our review on the Moon Knight series.
So we recently finished our reaction to Moon Knight, which is on the channel. So if you like that and haven't seen it, check that out. Now, Moon Knight was a character that we both knew nothing about.
Nothing at all.
Came into it completely blind.
Yep.
One thing we definitely know now, after every comment over 6 episodes, is that the third personality is called Jake. Okay? Couldn't miss it. We've heard all of you for those countless comments. But yeah, I was kind of intrigued by this character because it was one of the few times that I've really, in the last while that I've known nothing, never heard of it, never even seen the design. I was like, who's this? Trailers were pretty dark. He looked almost like a Batman-like brutal guy.
Yeah.
Or like a Daredevil kind of, in a way, which intrigued us. And we thought, okay, this looks like something different. Let's explore.
Yeah.
And so here's our sort of review and discussion of what we thought throughout our Moon Knight experience. I think I'll start off with the big rock, which is the storytelling. And I felt like Moon Knight's storytelling overall was good and enjoyable, and we had a great ride with it. But I don't feel like it reached that excellent, outstanding tier, other than, which we'll touch on, episode 5, which was incredible. Overall, the story sort of had this pace. It was gradual, and we were in it for the ride. But then when it got to the final episode, it felt like there was so much that had to be covered, and it was just rushed and wrapped up. And so I felt like had this series had maybe 8 or 9 episodes, it could have been done justice. But for the 6 it had, and I get it, it's an origin story and all for it. But even as an origin story, it just felt like the pacing was fine for 5 episodes. We were all for it. But then to wrap up everything it built up in one episode, and still a lot left to be desired from the character, from the origin story, from the backgrounds of other characters we met, it just felt like the pacing off a little bit.
Honestly, even 12 episodes, if we're going to match the first half with the second half, I feel like 12 would have been like a perfect...
I feel like 9 would have been satisfactory. I feel like they could have done enough with it, to be honest.
They could have, if they started speeding things up. But
considering they only did 6, that means we got 7, 8, 9, 3 more plus 6. That's a decent amount.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, the reason why I said 12 is because everything that we've gotten until episode 5, I just felt like we just started scratching the surface of really exploring the depths of everything.
That's always going to be a season 1. And I don't think the goal of season 1 is to try and explore everything anyway, but it was more about him and his climactic moment as a hero and his defining moment being just straight away put in there when it could have been brought out a bit more.
But even a bit of Layla's character development, like just a tiny bit, even like 1 episode to chuck it in there.
Maybe. I don't care about her too much, so.
No, but if you're going to have her in the final episode playing like a big role, I thought that would have been like really cool. Just in terms of storytelling, I actually didn't mind the way it was presented to us. Like, it was quite slow and dragged out, and there was this suspense, this tone that was held throughout. And then finally, episode 5, we get all this information and things are starting to make sense, and it's presented in such an emotional way.
It was cool the way they presented it as well, where they left a lot of questions unanswered, a lot of things didn't add up, and even subtle things like Stephen having a date, which you can easily miss. And then episode 5, going back through the memories, just tied in a lot of questions about the origin of Stephen and Mark, and just gave answers to a lot of things that had alluded to throughout the series, but hadn't been fully explained. And then we had 1 episode to sort of wrap it up in the cool fashion of going through the memories and getting to live those experiences as well. So you got more of an emotional attachment to what's going on as well, that it meant something rather than just being thrown a quick line of dialogue and not having any attachment to it.
Yeah, but the other thing that I do like is we live through that experience, but then we also live through adult Mark and Stephen and their experiences going back on it. I felt that was done like perfectly. And so I do like those details that we got and the way that story was told. And even small details like in the last episode, how we actually see 2 goldfish. And I wasn't too sure whether they're both had 1 fin or if they both had 2 fins. I couldn't really see close enough, but I love that little nod to their brother and that memory and things like that, which was really nice.
Definitely cool how they sort of, we always believed Mark was good, but they try and make you, and they did a decent job of it, making you doubt what did he do, what happened that night, was he to blame for Layla's father's death, was there a good reason for it, did he snap? They make you distrust him a little bit too, because, he's obviously got the ID. And was it him? Was it another alter ego or personality? What happened that night? They sort of make you keep questioning, which through Stephen's point of view, you're sort of looking at Mark and seeing Stephen's avenue too. So you get to see how they see each other through the storytelling,
Yeah.
which was done quite well. Definitely wasn't as dark as I thought it would be. Based on the trailers and what people were saying about this series before we started it, I thought it was going to be darker, like Daredevil, Netflix's Daredevil series, sort of dark.
And I think everything that we're saying is the exception of episode 5.
Correct. So
Yeah.
episode 5 pretty much hit the nail on the head. That
Yeah.
made me very emotional. You know, Pudgy was obviously crying as always. So really, that was pretty brutal and it was cool. But it was generally more of a lighter tone for a character that's in the night and
Yeah.
the situation at hand. I felt like it still held
It
a lighter
had
tone,
darker moments, but the overall tone.
which was still enjoyable. I enjoyed the experience, but I definitely was down for it to be a bit darker. You know, see more of the Moon Knight that we saw at the end of the first episode when we're first introduced to him, and he's just pounding into that Egyptian dog. Forget the name. That was brutal. That was savage. I wanted to see that absolute relentlessness, you know. And then we see Mark erupt with anger and smash a mirror. I was happy to see more of that anger side of things, which sort of we didn't go fully into. But on the flip side, I did find Stephen very humorous. I did actually really enjoy the iconic line is when he goes, "Hippo!" when she
That
comes
was
in.
so good.
That was great. And there are a lot of lines that Stephen throws and then calls back to later on. And Stephen
Even
was
like
a fun.
with Harrow, he's like, ooh, nosy.
Yeah.
Like,
Stephen was a very fun character. Really good to like him.
I loved seeing their interaction, Mark and Steven, their relationship grow, and just the way they interact with each other. It wasn't too forced, the humor. Like, it was done really well, and it fitted with each of their personalities, their characteristics, and yeah, it just brought like a really fresh dynamic to the series.
And their relationship growth was actually done really
Yeah.
well. You know, you really feel like you're taken on that journey. You see either person's point of view, and that reconciliation we see in the final episode from that perspective of their character story arc, it was done justice. From the
Yeah.
human side of things, it was really cool to see them come together, and that I can say was pretty well fleshed out. I
Yeah.
don't have so much complaints about that. That was
No,
done well.
same.
Obviously, a testament to Oscar Isaac. We didn't really know about him. He's apparently, which you might not know, but in X-Men Apocalypse, he plays Apocalypse. I never knew that. I don't know too many of the other movies, but like, wow, what an actor. Everyone knows it, you know, but seeing the performance and how he's playing multiple personalities and accents and making you buy into each person, it just was done really well.
Even toward the ends, like the very last episode when it was interchangeable between Jake and then Steven talking to Harry, like it was just like that. Like it was so good. Even the what would you call it? Like when they change, what's it called?
Transitions.
The transitions. Yeah, like that was really cool.
So it's a bit of controversy. I've read some comments on other videos and people aren't fully sure because some people are saying, you know, there's moments where we saw certain very dark traits and we're like, yep, that's definitely Jake. You know, even in moments of dialogue. But then others are saying because of the end credit scene when he had a Spanish accent and whatever, they're saying, no, that wasn't him, you know, and I don't know.
Look, a lot of New York, what do you call them? New York people, like people from New York can be Spanish. Like you can have that really New York accent, but then be Spanish. Like it's, you can be bilingual. Like it's not, so I don't know. Like it would be cool if that was like a whole different person in general, but it didn't seem too far-fetched for me that he now like spoke Spanish.
The one that I thought was the most obvious sort of reveal, if it was the case, was there's a moment toward last episode, I think, with Harrow when we think it's Steven, but he gets very dark on Harrow's psychiatrist sort of form, and then goes to more Steven, which is a bit lighter, and you think, no, it was like too brutal to be Mark. So that I'm like, I really think that's Jake.
Yeah.
But without knowing his character at all, and we might get more confirmed, but that's sort of where we stand on that, I think.
I just wanted to talk about Layla for a second. Like I mentioned earlier, I do get the story was about Mark and Steven, but I do feel like I would have liked a bit more of character development from her, only because of the role she had in the last episode. Unless they're going to do a spin-off, then great, then no worries. But I just felt like I needed a little bit more from her to kind of justify that massive role that she had.
And to invest in her character a little bit.
Yeah, and it was interesting that she became Tawedda's avatar. When she became an avatar, it was almost as if it was like a mistake. It's like she subconsciously thought, okay, where are you? I need your help, Tawedda. Because when Tawedda goes, you know, I'm happy for you to be my avatar, she goes, Avatar? Like, what? Like, how did this even happen? And then quickly talking about her father. So it was kind of dismissed. But I thought that was kind of interesting. She almost didn't want it. So that'd be cool if they start to explore that.
Mind you, at the time of this, we don't even know for second season. It's so far
Yeah.
unconfirmed and no one's signed on, so we don't know what the future's going to look like. I personally think Layla should have been something brought into maybe season 2. I felt like for an origin story for Moon Knight, they were trying to cram in too much. And I felt like while the transformation was kind of cool, it took away a bit from Moon Knight's final achievement because he basically had to have help from another avatar. We're waiting all this time to see what Moon Knight's capable of. And then we've already got another avatar who's helping him in the fight.
With no experience whatsoever other than combat experience.
And I didn't feel like we needed more on Layla and her story to be more invested in that. Some people seem to really like that. I felt like it was sort of just put in there for a cheap
introduction, I guess.
Yeah, just thrown in there and something extra and cool. Now we've got 2 avatars. But I know most people have said that line that Harrow mentions, that the other avatars were more sort of watchful eyes and judges and not so much warriors. And maybe that the gods limited the amount of power they gave their other avatars, and that's fine. But again, that was kind of inconsistent with the presence that was given earlier in the series. You really felt like, wow, these are the elites around the world. You know, this could be something big. And then them all just being taken out by Harrow, and then Layla, who becomes an avatar for, you know, a hippo, which you wouldn't think is super powerful in the grand scheme of things, ends up having some badass falcon-like sort of avatar, while all the others got bodied by one guy and they seemingly had like minimal ability. So it sort of undermined all the others, and maybe that's explained by them not giving them full powers. But I felt like the power scaling and the hierarchy and order of everything was sort of like a bit random to follow.
And you guys did actually confirm what I was suspecting, that with the costume of the avatars and things like that, it was the cane that was his costume, and that's where the power came from, which I totally get. I feel like a little bit of, and this is why I say 12 episodes could have done it justice, because I would have liked a bit of a background on Harrow and how he dealt with Moon Knight. We only got that a bit in dialogue.
That's one of the points I had written down too. Yeah, I felt like Harrow had alluded to his backstory so many times, and he's a character you're quite, you know, intrigued about, and you're wondering what broke him. You know, is this foreshadowing the future that Mark and Stephen might have with Khonshu? And then he's killed off, and we don't, even as a villain at the final end, we don't get to fully explore his motivations and his pain to be more invested in what led him to become the way he is.
Yeah.
And so they sort of skim past that, and there definitely could be more depth to that.
And then the last episode, it was just done. I was like, oh, okay. I just wanted more from it.
Yeah, it felt like it was wrapped up too quick. It felt a bit generic, you know, like I'm all for a big showdown. I love the fight scenes, right? It was cool. But I always look for, okay, cool, we got this big final showdown, but I want the stakes to be high. I want something unpredictable at the end. And
the stakes,
and a callback to something maybe earlier that we might have missed being significant, you know, something hidden there. But particularly, like you said, the stakes. The stakes never felt super high. Layla coming in took that away as well. And then when the fight almost felt threatening and we thought there was going to be a big twist, Mark blacks out, Jake sort of takes over. And you were saying in our reaction, which you guys can see, you know, you were saying like, nah, it's not over. Like, there's no way it's over. And I just had a feeling. And
I had a bit of hope.
That was it. It was sort of like, okay, I get it's an origin story, but we've been exploring Harrow for so long since the first episode. He's been this mysterious character who's always seemed to have the edge. And then Jake just comes in like clutch and wins the day. It just felt too easy. Worked so hard, and then it was just done with. So that was a bit lackluster and not satisfying for me personally.
Yeah, same. I would have liked a bit more.
Yeah, it felt too safe, a little bit too generic. Given how amazing episode 5 was, we were hoping that the finale was going to build on that and again keep the stakes, you know, and the feeling and the emotion in the show that high. I definitely went, you know, way back down for a finale episode for a series that may not even have another season.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, didn't leave you with a super powerful, long-lasting impression.
Yeah.
It actually started off stronger than it finished. Like, the starting was pretty powerful with the characters and Mark and Steven reconciling and stuff. But then, yeah, the way it wrapped up was sort of...
Yeah, I feel like I just have myself thinking about episode 5 so much more than the finale. Definitely. In a series, like you said, that may not even continue, I would like the finale to be at that standard. But it is what it is.
I think it's worth mentioning as well, the scenes with the gods fighting at the back, Khonshu versus Armored, sort of contrasting the fight between Moon Knight and Harrow. That was pretty cool. The duality in that, even just the way they did those battles, it was actually done pretty cool. That was a nice scene, a nice little effect. Definitely appreciated that.
Even the full circle moment of Khonshu leaves Stephen and Mark alone. They're free, and then we're back in the apartment, and we're kind of back to where we left Stephen and Mark in terms of tying themselves up to the bed, the sand around the bed, and then waking up, running out of bed and falling. Like,
And it's like where we all started, but at the beginning we were lost. Now we've come to where it all started in a knowing state. You know, it's a whole new man now. Like
Yeah.
two halves come together.
yeah. And I feel like if they left a little bit more mystery around that in terms of Jake, that would have been probably a bit of a more lasting impression.
Yeah.
But they kind of just gave you everything.
The post-credit scene, I don't feel like it was super unpredictable.
No.
You know, a lot of people were adamant that we wouldn't see Jake, and we did.
We were kind of expecting that.
Yeah, and then the way they sort of used it to kill off Harrow, they could have even done it in a more brutal way if they wanted to show off Jake. Whereas it was just like too clean. Jake took him in. We sort of show, which we sort of expected, that Khonshu had worked out a loophole in his agreement with Mark and Stephen. And Jake, you know, he's not afraid to do the dirty work, and that's fine. But maybe if it was more brutal and it left you like, holy shit, that might have been more powerful. But it was just like, cool, Harrow's dead. You're like, oh, we thought maybe they're saving Harrow for something more. You know, Harrow was a pretty intriguing character, and I felt like he was just used to grow, you know, Stephen and Mark a little bit, and then the minute they'd sort of done their thing, they threw him aside. They didn't do his character arc justice, and they introduced Jake, which felt kind of lackluster. I wasn't super shocked by it, and I didn't have the effect I think they were going for.
I think seeing Jake, like you've mentioned in the reactions, in those psych ward scenes and all those little nods to
Mysterious.
Jake. Yeah, it was quite mysterious and dark and like intriguing. Whereas the post-credit scene or mid-credit scene was just like, oh, okay, that's Jake.
Yeah.
Overall, thoughts on the series?
As I said, good series, enjoyable. That episode 5 shows the potential of it, but it didn't reach that, you know, look, it's not one of my top, definitely not in my top list of Marvel series, but I will definitely be looking forward to another season or to see him appear in a movie. I want to explore the character of Moon Knight more, and I wouldn't put it in my top list of a series or movies that really had a long-lasting impact on me. Like, I need to see more. I'd definitely be interested to explore his characters more and to see more from them, but it definitely left a lot to be desired. It didn't fully meet my expectations, but I had fun and I enjoyed the characters, and I'd be down to explore the world of Moon Knight more and learn more about this hero in the future for sure. How about you?
I think that's what this series did really well. It made you invested in Mark and Stephen. So no matter whether they're going to be presented in a movie or a season 2, you want to see their story play out. And that's what I really loved about the series. I think it was intriguing enough to like maintain that intrigue for me. Like I said, episode 5 was amazing, and I could watch that episode over and over again and potentially just rewatch the series just to get that emotion back from that episode. But yeah, like overall it was a decent series. Like, it was good and I really enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say that it was absolutely fantastic, no flaws whatsoever.
Like, there are some series that leave you emotionally impacted for days or weeks. Episode 5 definitely had that effect, but as a series overall, and the overall story, it was like, okay, cool, that's done. Like, nice. It was a good adventure, but it wasn't something that kept me thinking and digesting and trying to break it down and make sense of things, you know? I was sort of like, okay, cool, like that chapter's done, I can move on to something else.
Yeah.
Well, that's our Moon Knight review and discussion. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you thought of the series as a whole, what stood out to you. We'll be happy to read those and see how everyone felt about Moon Knight as a series. If you enjoyed the video, remember to give it a like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with either reviews and discussions we do for every series that we watch and some of the big movies out there that we go and see. Or if you enjoy our reactions, we've got plenty of those, and we're going to be doing a lot more Marvel series as we slowly work our way through them on the channel as well. So join us for that. We'd love to have you guys join us. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.